Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily, where we'll be recounting the top headlines from the last 24 hours. I'm your host, David Garkopani, and with me is Julian Bonnici. Stay tuned right after the headlines for an interview with Michela Farrugia, the actress from the awesome Maltese production Luzzu. In the meantime, these are your headlines. Acres of land in Malta have burned down during a recent heatwave. The hunting lobby has filed a judicial protest to block BIRDLIFE from Lands Authority agreements. VAT charges against Maltese magistrate will be dropped. 7 Maltese youths are taking on the MONGOL rally, and a Maltese man responsible for MOSTA cat killings asks for release from Mount Carmel. Julian.
Yeah, the first story just has reports, that Malta's about to hit a massive heat wave, and even a red alert warning has been issued because the country could reach highs of 43 degrees Celsius today. And major concerns are being raised about the potential of grass fires in the country, particularly those destroying large swathes of agricultural land. So Steve Zamit-Lupi, who is the independent local councillor from Hazebouch, yesterday shared quite alarming images showing utter devastation in with Irda and with Girgenti, showing, practically around 35 tumuli of agricultural land being burnt to a crisp. Now, in that land, there were obviously mature trees, a whole ecosystem thriving that's now sort of been destroyed for the foreseeable future. Now, Zamit-Lupi in his status on Facebook sort of hinted at the issues of drought in the country and how basically the situation is not going to get better. It's actually going to get worse, particularly if we're not addressing the climate crisis in the country. We're going to see more and more fires and more dangerous it's going to be. For those of you out there who might be seeing the large number of grass fires happening across the country as something minute, I think you just need to look across to our Mediterranean neighbors, right? In Italy, in Greece, now in Israel and Algeria, there have been large wildfires where people have lost their lives. Now, this all comes as the IPCC released quite a damning report on climate action. You can read all about that on lovinmalta.com. Unfortunately, rather than addressing something immediately, all the government has done is a 2050 strategy. Now, 2050 is a long time away. Most politicians who have made this commitment will either probably be dead or retired. So make of that what you will. They've got actually nothing to bind themselves to that target. What we need is actually really concrete action as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's gotten so bad you don't even need to see trees burning to realize that something is up, right? Malta International Airport has been issuing red alerts and orange alerts and extreme temperature alerts every other day this summer. We've had the hottest June on record since 1923. We're about to have another hot day. I woke up this morning and my car was already scorching and it was already telling me it's 40 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning, so clearly something is up. And remember, if it is 43 degrees in the air, imagine what the tarmac is like. So it's only going to get hotter, and clearly something needs to be done before it's too late, even if it might already be a little bit too late for certain things. Meanwhile, the Federation for Hunting and Trapping Conservation, the FKNK, has filed a judicial protest which is aiming to prevent the Lands Authority from entering or renewing any agreement with BIRDLIFE. Basically, the FKNK is arguing that BIRDLIFE and other NGOs are attempting to block the procedure that the Lands Authority used to hand over the management of the Ahrash and the Mizip woodlands to FKNK, and they even argued that the public does not have free access to Adira and Simar Reserve. This is of course not the first time that FKNK and BIRDLIFE, who are in principle on opposite ends of the spectrum, they've come to loggerheads. We've all seen the Foshtal BIRDLIFE tattoos and the constant videos and the CCTV footages that they share. But it has all come to a head in the last couple of months with the arguments now being taken to court. Last July, for example, just last month, the court declared that NGOs have every right to challenge the Lands Authority decision, and of course this comes after the very controversial October 2020 decision, which we are slowly approaching the one-year anniversary of. The secret signing, there was no press, everything was behind closed doors, where the FKNK was given the formal concession of Ahrash and Mizip, the massive woodlands to our north. The secret signing had, the likes of Transport Minister Borch, Environment Minister Farrugia, Gozo Minister Clint Camilleri, Prime Secretary for Planning and Construction Chris Ajuz. These were all backing it, these were all signing it. And even amidst all that civil unrest, the only thing that the government really did was they moved forward the date of the secret signing so that they get it over and done with.
And prevent people from going, to protest it. So this is just the latest chapter in the disputes between FKNK and BIRDLIFE, obviously, as you said, naturally at loggerheads because they're both on both sides of the divide. But I have to say the tensions between them have really been ramped up over recent months, particularly in the wake of the Mizip and Ahraj woodlands issue. Now, we're going to see how this develops. Like, as you were saying, BIRDLIFE and FKNK have both taken up issues to the courts now. I think there are so many cases they have against each other running concurrently. We're going to see how this all develops. But obviously, we're just literally, I think, 3-4 weeks away from the next hunting season. So don't expect this dispute to end anytime soon. Recently, FKNK were even accusing BIRDLIFE of spying on them while doing their patrols during hunting season, so stay tuned. We haven't heard the last of this conflict. On to our next story. Charges against Magistrate Monica Vella over VAT issues might be dropped after the magistrate settled her outstanding issues with the authorities. Now, Lovin Malta had first revealed how Vella was initially charged on 23rd July over the issues which sources told us relate to her time before, and mostly at least relate to her time before a magistrate while serving as a lawyer. However, the case was put on until 15th October, giving Vella ample time to sort of settle any outstanding issues. Now, yeah, fine, I don't think maybe somebody should be getting a prison sentence, for failing to declare VAT, or at least, submitting, but this is a member of the judiciary. Action needs to be immediately taken, how can anybody have respect sort of for the law, for the institution of the courts, when our own magistrates, our own judges find it no problem to not pay their taxes or to commit any sort of crimes? Remember, this is an issue that pervades sort of the entire legal system. Vella isn't alone. Even opposition leader Bernard Gregg had to settle a massive tax bill before becoming opposition leader. The situation is quite frankly ridiculous. It seems like there's one rule for the people who are in the legal system, who know it very well and know how to navigate it, and another rule for the rest of us. So really disappointing. Action really needs to be taken, at least if we're going to move forward after the public inquiry, after everything. Will we ever get any responsibility anywhere?
Yeah. It's sad, it's ironic, it's shameful. It's also a little bit worrying that it's not really surprising as well, that these people who are meant to be in the higher echelons of responsibility and jurisdiction are the people who are embroidered in all of these controversies. Anyway, on to our next story. Lovin Malta has spoken to 7 Maltese youths who are taking on the behemoth challenge of the Mongol Rally. Just in case you're not familiar with the Mongol Rally, it's this intercontinental car rally, massive endeavor, usually takes just over a month. It begins in Europe and ends all the way in Russia. There really just has 3 rules to this rally. You just have to have a banged up car that you fix up and just add, a tiny engine. Usually the maximum is 1,200 cc. You're unsupported and you raise at least €500 for charity. Lovin Malta spoke to a group of 7 youths who, well, quite frankly, couldn't fit in one car, so they bought 2. The cars are, tiny, cheap cars. We're talking about a Peugeot 105 and Peugeot 106 and a Peugeot 205. Literally cost less than €300, and still they're going to take on, this stupidly massive challenge of driving across, I think in total, by the time they're back, it's around 12,000 kilometers. They're going to be driving through Slovakia, Romania, Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Iran. The ultimate road trip, really. They're planning on leaving on the 16th of July of next year. Of course, it had been postponed by a couple of years because of COVID, so this is going to be one of the biggest years ever for the Mongol Rally, and they plan on arriving back home safe and sound, hopefully by the 28th of August, so just over a month. They are definitely not the only team to have attempted this from our tiny island of Malta. In previous years, we have interviewed a number of people who have taken on the Mongol Rally, and these 2 groups, the Baguette Bandits and the French Toast Troop, will be joining other Maltese teams even next year. So there's another group that reached out to us just yesterday, telling us they're planning on transforming 2 minivans into old Maltese buses, so stay tuned for more on that. But in the meantime, massive kudos and a massive good luck to Luke Borch, Isaac Vella, Theo Camilleri, Claude Borch-Grech, Zach Asa, Christian Schembri, and Liam Darmanin.
Yeah, really, really cool challenge, effectively, crossing an entire continent, a really, really cool ultimate road trip. I would have loved to do it, but unfortunately I'm not cut out for it. I'm not a good driver, I'm not a good mechanic, and I know absolutely nothing about cars. So if anyone out there is going and just wouldn't mind a passenger in the back seat, making stupid comments, I'll be there for you, okay? On to our last story, a bit of a blast from the past, quite a shocking story back then. Nicholas Gregg, the man responsible for a spree of cat and dog killings in MOSTA, has applied in court to have his 7-year detention at Mount Carmel put to an end. So Nicholas Gregg, back in 2014, had actually been acquitted of the charges related to the offences on the basis of pleading insanity. At the time, Gregg was a diagnosed schizophrenic, had stopped taking medicine, and sort of explained to the courts how he was just trying to send a message of how animal cruelty was bad. In fact, a lot of the animals he found, all the animals he found, were dead strays, so he claimed. So for those of you who don't remember, the case dates back almost 10 years ago now, to October 2011, after people used to find quite a lot of gruesome discoveries in MOSTA of dogs and cats sort of affixed to crucifixes and stuff like that. It continued up until February 2017. It was quite a mystery, until he was apprehended and obviously eventually put in Mount Carmel. Now, 7 years later, his lawyer, Rachel Tua, was arguing, listen, Mr. Gregg has made a full recovery, and his detention is no longer justified, and she even said, listen, we can even get the same witnesses and experts who assessed him back in 2014 to assess him once again, and to see whether he has actually made a full recovery. I don't know about you, but personally, I really do actually understand where the lawyer is coming from. Now, push the issue aside, right? I know sometimes something like that might be a bit shocking and stuff like that for people out there, but this man's mental health has to be taken into account. And if he's made a full recovery, I see no reason to justify his continued detention inside there, I mean, it's 2021 now, all the sort of strides or attempted strides we've made to sort of address the stigma of mental health and whatever, I mean, this is a prime example to put our money where our mouth is, I mean, he did commit, a heinous crime, but as the courts agreed, it was only done because of his mental health at the time. I mean, if he's healthy now, I see no problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, this has been a chilling story, a decade in the making. The first moment that I saw, MOSTA cat killer back in the headlines, I remembered, all those chilling days when I used to wake up and there was another case and there was that whole disturbing, mystery of who it might be and what the motives might be. But I think a whole 10 years later, and even with the great strides, as you said, that we've made on addressing mental health, on trying to tackle the taboo that there might be about how to deal with it and how to address it, I think it's high time that if, a court-appointed specialists, after all, find that that this man has made the necessary, improvements in his mental health, I think the country owes him a second chance. So that brings us to the end of the news bulletin, but stay tuned for a very interesting interview with Michela Farrugia, the actress from Luzzu, and first, a trailer from the Maltese production itself.
Bonġu.
X'għandna?
Bella xi ħaġa llum?
X'kont x'għandek jew?
Għandi l-fiċ mimlija. Għawija mhux tieħu ftit minn tiegħi. Żammu għal għada araħ kemm hu sabiħ.
Le, baqali, taħi.
Ta' dallej.
Baqali.
Dile.
Tina żgħira.
Sara x'fih.
Żgħira man. Ejja.
Bil-kiem?
Bil-14.
Wejja konna nagħmluhom bil-15 kien jitilgħu oħra. Ma ħaqniex 15 xejja.
Tiġġaġ jista' jitqablek.
Allura mela kemm se tata?
Issa għal-ġejjada. Grazzi.
Juwat l-aktar saqsra. Wejja ma taqtaf li mhux tort tiegħi. Aqbad it-triq waqbes il-barra u ġew tarġux taqsa. Tarġux tiġilgħu. Mela ħanoqgħdu sejrin hekk jew.
Dak għandi. All right? Ciao.
Għetlek biex ma tersaqx.
Ija naf.
Le,
Għala.
Ma tistax tgħinni nipprova?
Hi, welcome back everybody. With me I've got Michaela from Ruja from the really fantastic Maltese movie Luzzu. How are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the show. I mean, let's crack on to it. I mean, Luzzu, a really amazing production. You want to just like let our audience know what the movie is a little bit about?
The movie is about a typical Maltese family. The father is a fisherman, and we kind of see real life struggles, I guess. And it's the way it was done, and Alex was very careful, which is why he chose Jesmark, a non-actor. He wanted it to be very authentic, and I think that comes across. I felt that came across. Maybe you could say that.
Yeah, no, exactly. So we actually got a little lucky sneak peek last week at the film. It's a really fantastic movie. As you said, the main actor is Jesmark Shakluna. He's a fisherman, you know, brought into this, you know, complete novice, but the performance is incredible. You know, what was it like sort of working with, you know, a non-actor, you know, someone completely outside of this world, you know?
It was so good, and so it was such a learning curve for me, because that was only the second film I did, and it's like I was trained in theatre, which is a completely different way around it, and getting to work with Jesmark and David and the way Alex directed us, we were very much allowed to play around, improvise our scenes, and we had a lot of input. But what I liked was they, you know, if they just have to get from here to here in a story, they're just going to go there. There's no extra stuff. They're not embellishing anything, which I feel us actors like to do quite a lot. Like we're very dramatic in that sense. So basically, to be quite frank, they made me cut my shit, you know, like which is good.
Oh, is that a bit liberating?
Yes,
you know?
yes.
I like working with people like that. So I don't want to give anything away for the people out there, but it's a really powerful story, you know, about Maltese fishermen and the struggles they face, you know, and really coming to sort of terms with that traditional life with modern Malta, I suppose. What's a message you really want a Maltese person, you know, to get out of this film?
I think what struck me most when I first started talking to Alex was that he told me, like, I do not want to make a postcard. I don't want to make Malta seem out to be as this really beautiful, magical little Mediterranean place. And I feel like lately we've been doing that. And we do tend to romanticize people like fishermen, farmers, and these kind of very traditional things. So I think that's what I took away, at least, and that's what I hope can come across.
And let's talk a bit about your role in it in particular. You play Jesmark's partner, you know, really struggling to it. Was there anything you learned from sort of occupying that space, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I never held a baby before. And I had to learn quite a lot, and I was very lucky because Jesmark is actually a father, and that was a whole new world for me.
No, really good. So obviously it's almost like a Maltese story for Malta, about Malta. Why do you think, you know, that's important, you know, for Maltese people to see, you know, good Maltese stories?
I don't think we have a lot of material that really represents us as a nation, whatever that is, but we don't really have that kind of work, because even when we do try to tell Maltese stories, many a times they are embellished, and we do try to make ourselves seem more or less than what we are. And I think this is very honest.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'd have to agree, you know. I mean, even sometimes, you know, it is a bit bleak, you know, but I think, you know, at least for me, it really resonated with me, even though it's, you know, it's a world fish. I mean, I have no idea how to fish, you know. I mean, don't put me on a Luzzu and I'd be struggling so much, you know. But on this note, you know, we've actually been seeing, at least recently, you know, at least in really good quality, independent, you know, movies coming out. You know, obviously there's Luzzu, but before there's been Shimshot, The Boat, Limestone Carbine, now even Srip. You know, we're really seeing a push. Do you think there's a big future now for Maltese cinema? You know, are we going to finally get one?
I hope so. And I mean, clearly there are the people and the crew and the actors and the directors and the writers who can come together. And I hope that maybe Strip came out last week and it was fantastic, and I hope that with Strip and now with Luzzu and with all of the movies we've had before, without sounding cheesy, maybe we can, believe in ourselves, stop having an inferiority complex and just move forward. And
yeah, and I think that's what's interesting about Luzzu, right? I mean, you were there firsthand, right? I mean, it was quite low budget, no, really? I mean, like, how did it feel, being part of, something so simple, really produced, but actually creating something so powerful? Did it really make you realize how easy actually filmmaking can be?
It did. And I mean, I felt that with theatre very straight on, and some of the stuff we did was just that, and it was simple. You don't have a lot of resources, and just go. And I didn't really know that much about film, and I didn't, I guess, realize maybe, but I think with the right people and the right story and the right direction.
And thing is,
Yeah,
no, a good message, like I think to any future filmmakers, watching this, wanting to do this, sometimes all it takes is a really good story through some incredible, to be fair, some incredible casting in the film, the really powerful performances throughout. Luzzu comes out on 8 September, make sure you get some tickets, get your asses in the seat. It's a really fantastic movie and you really can't miss out. And that's it from us for today. And remember, have a day full of loving.